Yet another big update has been released in Limbus Company. With it came the brand new Nocturnal Sweeping event, setting up the next Kanto story-wise and bringing us fights against both new and old enemies. Alongside the event we got two new identities, both of whom promise to improve our Rupture teams and help out the archetype in more ways than one. The identities I'm talking about are, of course, Heishou Pack Mao Branch Ryoshu and Outis. These two identities feature a lot of stuff in their kits: Rupture, Haste, speed-based abilities, coin reuses and multiple new effects. Because, of course, every new Rupture drop needs to have a unique effect. The new identities are really good and surprisingly versatile. But should you aim to get them? In today's video I want to answer that question by doing a couple of things. First, we'll go over the kits of Ryoshu and Outis and compare them, as the two identities don't have that many differences. But the ones that exist change their playstyles drastically. After that, we'll talk about the two identities on the Rupture team and what they bring to that composition. And we'll end off by looking at the Heishou Pack's strengths outside of the Rupture team. However, before we start, I have to tell you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get back to the Mao branch. We'll start with their kits. To compare the two, I will be going over all the skills side by side and pointing out notable differences between the two. Both Ryoshu and Outis have only slash skills, a 4-7 speed spread and 186 HP at level 50. Ryoshu's Sin Affinity spread consists of Lust, Gluttony and Pride, with a Gluttony defense. Outis also gets the Gluttony skill 2 and defense, but her skills 1 and 3 get Sloth and Gloom instead. Ryoshu's skill 1 is Blink Step. It has 2 coins and reaches 15 power with both conditionals up. The conditionals in question require two things: Ryoshu being faster than the enemy by 3 or more, and 4 Rupture on the enemy. This allows her to get half of her bonus power even outside of the Rupture team, which will be important later. On Clash Win, the skill inflicts 1 Rupture count. The first coin of the skill inflicts 1 Rupture, and the second one inflicts 1 more Rupture count. The coin is reused if Ryoshu is at 10 speed. Moving on to Outis' skill 1, it's also called Blink Step, but this one is slightly worse in every single way. It only reaches 14 power with conditionals and does not inflict any Rupture count. Instead, the second coin inflicts 1 Rupture potency. Ryoshu's skill 2 is as written. No, I am not making you read, that's just the name of the skill. With conditionals up, it reaches 20 power. The skill deals bonus damage equal to Rupture on the enemy times the speed difference between Ryoshu and the target, up to 50%. The skill retains the same conditionals as Blink Step, and on use, Ryoshu also gets 2 haste next turn. On Clash Win, the skill inflicts 1 Rupture count. Both coins of As Written inflict 1 Rupture on hit, and both of them get extra effects at 10 plus speed. The first coin gets to inflict 1 Rupture count, and the second one deals 30% more damage. The skill 2 of Outis is Perforating Kill. It reaches the same power as Ryoshu's skill 2, but lacks the extra damage effect. Instead of inflicting Rupture count on Clash Win, the skill inflicts it on unopposed attack. The coins of the skill inflict 1 Rupture count each, making Perforating Kill go positive in Rupture count. The first coin also gives Outis 1 haste. Additionally, at 10 or more speed, the second coin deals 30% more damage, much like Ryoshu's skill 2. Ryoshu's third skill is I'll Got You with a Curse Engraved Blade. This skill has the same extra damage effect as Ryoshu's skill 2, and reaches 26 power with all conditionals up. However, this time the conditionals are different. The speed-based one has been improved to give up to 2 total coin power, giving 1 for every 2 points of speed difference. However, the Rupture-based one is not as easy to get, now requiring 15 Rupture on the target. On use, Ryoshu also gets 3 stacks of Strider Mao. We'll get to this effect a bit later. On Clash Win, the third skill inflicts 2 Rupture Count. The first coin of the skill inflicts another stack of Rupture Count, as well as Death Rite Haste. Once again, more on that later. The second coin simply inflicts 1 Rupture, but the third one has a bunch of effects. On hit, it inflicts 3 Rupture. At 10 plus speed, the coin deals 30% more damage and is reused once. When reused, the coin also inflicts Death Rite Haste again. Outis' third skill is Curse-Rit Butcher Blade, and it's very similar to Ryoshu's. The skill has the exact same damage effect, conditionals and on-use effects. Butcher Blade also inflicts 2 Rupture Count, but on unopposed attack instead of Clash Win. The coins of the skill are mostly the same, but they do not inflict any Rupture Count, and the third coin is a lot weaker, as it lacks the bonus damage effect and only inflicts 1 Rupture on hit. As for a defensive skill, Ryoshu gets a clashable counter. On use, it gives her 3 stacks of Strider Mao, and also gains power from speed in the same way as her skill 3. On hit, it inflicts 1 Rupture Count, making the skill go neutral. Outis also gets a clashable counter, which is a carbon copy of Ryoshu's variant, except it has 1 less coin power. As for passives, the Heishou pack is surprisingly simple. Ryoshu gets to deal extra damage when she has Strider Mao and when the enemy has Death Rite Haste, while Outis requires both effects to be present at once and deals extra damage based on Strider stacks on herself. Both passives require 3 Gluttony owned to activate. In terms of support passives, the new identities remain simple. Ryoshu allows the fastest ally to get even more speed every turn, and Outis allows that ally to deal extra damage against targets with Rupture, while also giving the ally more speed. Before we talk about how strong the 2 new identities are, let's take a look at the Strider and Death Rite effects to get the full picture. Strider Mao is a simple effect. It stacks up to 3 times, and gives 5 haste next turn at the end of a turn. It also loses 1 stack every turn. This effect is what allows Ryoshu and Outis to reach the incredibly high speed values that are needed for some of their effects. Death Rite Haste is a bit more complicated. It has a base stack of 3, and its main purpose is to serve as effectively extra stacks of Rupture Count. Whenever Rupture is triggered by an ally with 10 or more speed, so most likely one of the new identities, 1 stack of the effect is lost, and the target gains 1 Rupture Count. When the stacks of the effect run out, the enemy takes Gluttony damage equal to Rupture potency on self. Also, as long as Death Rite exists on an enemy, you cannot reapply the effect. So yeah, those are their kits. They're pretty interesting, aren't they? Seems like Outis is generally just weaker than Ryoshu, which was to be expected as she is a free identity. But actually, there is a way to make her stronger. We'll get to how you can do that in a second. So how do these 2 stack up in the Rupture team? Well, immediately, they're really good. Both identities get access to Rupture Count neutral and positive skills, allowing them to be easily slotted into a Rupture team without hurting the stack in any way. Additionally, the Death Rite Haste effect is incredibly strong at giving you even more Rupture Count. especially if it's micromanaged in a way that allows the infliction of the effect to never overlap with an existing attack for maximum value. But the juiciest part of both kits, in my opinion, is the counter. This skill does multiple things. First off, it acts as a gluttony skill that you can pull out at any moment in order to make a longer chain for the talisman passive, which is like the most important thing on the team. Also, it's literally a free hit on the enemy. The skill is count neutral, can roll up to 15 power on Ryoshu, and as I've already said, can be pulled out at any time. Now, Ryoshu doesn't need its count neutrality that much, considering that all of her skills can be count neutral anyways. But Outis can benefit from the free count neutral hit greatly, as her skill 1 can screw things up in an unlucky skill rotation. But really, the main reason as to why the counters are so goated is their ability to give Ryoshu and Outis Strider stacks. Just having Strider makes the identities so much stronger. You get their reuses, which makes their physical damage go through the roof. You pretty much guarantee that you get the full value of all the speed-based conditionals, further improving the offense value of the identities. And Ryoshu specifically just gets unlocked with the effect up. So much of her stuff requires her to have 10 speed, and as soon as you get Strider, you're literally given 10 speed instantly. Which is another thing I want to mention. The Heishou pack identities really don't hold back when it comes to haste. On-demand 5 haste for 3 turns, with the ability to get even more from the second skills, is honestly just crazy. Unlike a lot of other haste identities, Ryoshu and Outis can get their full conditionals up consistently, starting from literally turn 2, which honestly makes sense, considering that they're Rupture identities, meaning that they are usually used in fights that last 4 turns or less. Speaking of making fights last 0 turns, how do you use these identities? Well, it's simple really. So simple in fact that even I figured it out. As is the norm for Rupture, you want to restart until you get certain skills. More specifically, you want Deviate Rhodion's skill 3, ideally with some other gluttony skills on the board. You also want at least one of the third skills of the new identities to be usable by turn 2. Once you've got that, it's GG for any boss in the game. You use your counters to create a long gluttony chain that results in crazy talisman value. Then, at turn 2, you unleash your skill 3, as your identities are now at 10 speed, meaning you get the reroll and the Death Rite haste procs. This results in a ton of effective damage and a bunch of Rupture Count infliction, which leads to a swift and decisive victory. If you are not in a fight where you get to instantly explode a boss, you can actually buff up Outis. You do that with the help of the Ebony Stem Ego skill, which can be fueled using the 2 new identities and another ID with multiple Pride skills, such as Sanctmer Saw or Fenghunt Honglu. With the skill's passive ability up, Outis gets to inflict even more Rupture Count on every hit. This makes even her first skill go neutral, while others become insanely positive. Although do not forget that the passive applies Rupture Count on the next turn, meaning that even if you have it up, blindly spamming blink steps is still not a good idea, and could ruin your stack all the same. As a little extra tidbit of information for this segment, Death Rite Haste gets consumed and inflicted in the same order as Rupture, meaning that if you hit a coin that inflicts the effect on an enemy with just 1 stack of Death Rite, the stack will first be consumed from the hit, and then after that, a brand new stack will be inflicted, meaning that ideally you want Ryoshu's skill 3 hitting into 1 stack of Death Rite for maximum damage and Rupture Count. In that case, the first coin of the skill will explode the death rate stack, then reapply it, and then the second and third coins whittle the stack down to 1 again, and the reused coin explodes it once more and then reapplies it for Outis to use or for the next turn. But the most important question is this: do the new identities save Rupture from being a one-trick team? And the answer is, well, not fully. The Heishou pack identities really improve Rupture's best use case, which is bursting down a single boss. But for all other forms of content, their boost is simply not strong enough. This isn't to say that the impact of these identities on the team is negligible, but it's just that having two identities that can actually hit their conditionals in human encounters on a Rupture team is great, but it doesn't magically make Rupture a better anti-human team than any of the current top tiers. But honestly, I like it that way. The identities make Rupture stronger in a meaningful way, while also slightly improving the team's performance in the type of fights where it's usually bad, while also not breaking the entire game and making Rupture giga strong for no reason. The one thing that's left to talk about is using the new identities outside of a Rupture team. And the immediate question you might have is, why do I even want to talk about this? Usually all identities are looked at through the lens of them being in their perfect composition. So why do we need to talk about the Heishou pack as generalists? Well, I want to talk about them outside of Rupture, mostly because those identities seem to be surprisingly good even without a proper team. Of course, the main reason for that is the fact that the bonuses that these identities get are split between being gained from Rupture and from a speed advantage. And while Rupture-based effects are obviously Rupture team exclusive, the speed-based effects aren't, allowing you to get some good value from these identities even without a pre-built team. Both identities get good clash power from speed conditionals alone, and both get 30% damage boosts and rerolls on some of their skills, making their damage output actually incredible for generalists. This is further improved by their simple passives, which grant bonus damage without needing to go out of your way to set them up, as getting Strider and inflicting death rate is something that always happens with these identities. I would say that if you're looking to improve your lacking roster, pulling Ryoshu might be a decent idea, as she is strong, versatile, consistent and independent. Although I am not sure about sharding her. Your end goal should be making a full team, and Rupture is still not a composition I would recommend building as your main team. And that's it for my review of the Heishou pack Mao branch Ryoshu and Outis. Overall, the two identities are really strong, both as Rupture specialists and generalist damage dealers. They're weirdly consistent, especially for Rupture standards, and they feel very rewarding and fun to use. It's also fun that the Mao branch identities are effectively anti-win rate units, as their greatest tools are their counters, so win rate chads are not winning with this update. But maybe these rabbit mercenaries can convince some of you to get your hands off of the P and Enter keys, which definitely makes the game more fun. If you disagree or have something to add, leave a comment down below and I promise to read all of them. If you enjoyed this video at any point, leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!